The cry in the dark shipwreck the forest was quiet. Too quiet. Jake stood still. 1 foot over thick vines, the other on cold metal. A dark shape rose in front of him, twisted, broken, and covered in moss. The crashed alien ship had been here for years, maybe longer. Nature was eating it. Trees grew through the cracks. Rust dripped down its sides like old blood. But something didn't fit. Jake heard it again, a soft sound. Like crying at first, he thought it was the wind. But no, this was different. A small, weak voice, almost like a baby's cry. But this ship was supposed to be empty. Everyone inside had died long ago. That's what the record said. Jake's hand moved to the small blaster on his belt. Just in case. He stepped inside, the door groaned open. Cold air wrapped around him. It smelled like burned wires, old metal, and something else, something alive. The flashlight on his helmet flickered. Then it lit up the hallway, dark, silent, broken. Jake walked slowly, boots crunching glass and metal. The sound grew louder, a soft whimper. Then a tiny bark. Was that a puppy? Jake's heart beat faster. He turned a corner and froze. Therein, the middle of the broken hallway, sat a girl. She was small, thin, and clearly alien blue skin, silver hair, and glowing lines on her arms. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly. She looked half dead, skin covered in cuts and bruises. But she wasn't alone. In her arms was a small earth puppy, brown, dirty, shaking. The girl held it close to her chest. Then Jake saw something that made him stop breathing. The puppy was feeding. From her, not from a bottle. Not from food, from her own body. She had opened a small line in her skin. Something no human could do on. Warm liquid flowed to the puppy's mouth. Her face twisted in pain, but she didn't stop. She stroked the puppy's fur and whispered soft words in a language Jake didn't know. Jake stood there, frozen. He had seen war. He had seen aliens fight and die. But he had never seen this. An alien girl using her own body to feed a starving earth puppy. Why? Who was she? How was the puppy even here? The girl looked up. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just stared at him. Her eyes were full of fear, but also something else. Hope. Jake slowly raised his hands. It's okay, he said gently. I'm not here to hurt you. She tilted her head. Didn't move. I'm Jake, he said. Human. Still no answer. The puppy barked once. The girl flinched. Then she wrapped her arms tighter around it. Jake took a small step forward. The girl's eyes flicked down to the puppy, then back. To Jake, she was shaking cold. Weak, hurt. Jake reached into his bag and pulled out a small food bar and a bottle of water. He placed them on the ground and stepped back. The girl stared at them. Then at him. Slowly, very slowly, she crawled forward. She picked up the food bar, sniffed it, then broke it in half. She gave the bigger piece to the puppy. Jake smiled softly. You're not like the others, he whispered. Then the ground shook. A deep rumble echoed through the broken ship. The girl's eyes went wide. She grabbed the puppy and stood. Jake turned. The sound was coming from deep inside the wreck. Metal creaked. Lights flickered. Come on, he said. We need to go. The girl didn't understand his words, but she understood the fear in his voice. She nodded once, then followed him. They ran through the ship past empty rooms, dead systems, and long-forgotten shadows. Jake kept looking back. The girl stayed close. She moved fast, even with the puppy in her arms. Finally, they burst out into the open forest. The wind hit Jake's face. He took a deep breath. Safe. For now. The girl collapsed on the grass, breathing hard. Jake sat beside her. She looked at him, then at the puppy. Then she did something strange. She reached out and touched Jake's chest toward her. Fingers glowed softly where they touched him. Jake felt warmth. A small image flashed in his mind, her alone, hiding, crying, keeping the puppy alive, waiting for someone to come. Then it was gone. She pulled her hand back. Jake stared at her, stunned. You sent me a memory, he said, not believing it. She didn't reply, but she smiled. It was small, tired, but real. Then the puppy barked again. It was looking into the forest, ears up. Jake looked too. Leaves rustled. Something was coming. Asterisk, she doesn't speak, but her eyes begged. The forest was quiet again, but Jake didn't feel safe. He looked into the trees, where the leaves had just moved. Nothing there now. No sound, no wind, just silence. But the alien girl didn't relax. Her silver eyes stayed locked on the dark woods. The puppy growled softly in her arms. Jake placed a hand on his blaster. Whatever that was, he muttered, it's watching us. The girl turned to him. She still didn't speak. Her lips moved a little, but no sound came. Like she wanted to say something, but didn't know how. Jake crouched beside her. It's okay, he said. We're safe for now. Oh, she looked at him. Her face said what her mouth could not. Thank you. Then she did something strange. She reached into a small pouch on her side and pulled out a small cube. It glowed faint blue and hummed softly. Jake watched, curious. She placed the cube on the ground and pressed it once. It lit up, panned suddenly. A soft image floated above it. A hologram. The image showed her alone inside the wrecked ship. She looked thinner, weaker. The puppy was even smaller then. She was crying, holding it close, rocking it to sleep, feeding it from her body. Jake stared, heart heavy. She'd been alone in that cold, broken ship for weeks, maybe months. No food, no friends, no family. Only a tiny earth puppy. Jake couldn't understand how the puppy got there. Maybe it was part of the ship's cargo. Maybe it had escaped during the crash and found her. It didn't matter. What mattered was what she did. She gave her own life to keep the puppy alive. He looked at her again. She wasn't crying now, but her eyes were wet. Silver tears. Jake slowly took off his backpack. He pulled out a soft blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders. Then he placed a small heat stone beside her, one of the few things he had to keep warm in the wild. She looked down at the stone, then up at him. Her eyes, they begged not for food, not for water, for something else. Safety, trust, a place to belong. Jake nodded. You're not alone anymore, he said. She didn't understand the words, but maybe she understood the voice. The puppy barked once and wagged its tail. Jake smiled. At least someone's happy. The girl touched the puppy's head gently. Shh. She whispered something in her own language, soft, smooth, and strange. Jake pulled out a data pad and turned on a translator app. He held it out to her. She looked confused. He pointed to it. Say something, he said. She hesitated, then leaned forward and said one soft word. Zo. The translator blinked, then showed a word. Light. Jake nodded. So, light. Okay, I'll call you Zo. Is that your name? She looked confused again. He pointed at her. So she tilted her head, then nodded slowly. Maybe it was her name. Or maybe it meant something else. But for now, Suazio. Jake stood and looked around. They couldn't stay here long. The forest might be quiet, but he knew better. Something had moved. Something had watched, and it would return. We need shelter, Jake said, more to himself than her. Somewhere safe. So stood too. She held the puppy close, wrapped in the blanket. Her small legs shook, but she didn't fall. Jake started. Walking, she followed. They moved through the forest, staying low, listening for sounds. The sun was setting fast. Red light covered the trees like blood. Finally, Jake found a rocky hill with a small cave at its base. Hidden, dry, and strong. He checked inside. Empty, this'll do. They entered the cave. Jake set up his Gara, small light, food packs, and a fire stick. Soon, warm light filled the cave. Zoe sat near the fire. Her eyes glowed gently in the light. She looked less afraid now. Her hands stopped shaking. The puppy fell asleep in her lap. Jake gave her a pack of soft food and showed her how to open it. She did, smelled it, then took a bite. Her face changed, surprised. It tasted good. She smiled. Jake laughed. Yeah, not bad, huh? Then she did something that surprised him again. She picked up the second pack he gave her and gave it to him. He blinked. You're sharing? She nodded. Jake took the pack. Thanks, so. They ate in silence. Then Jake noticed something. Zo was drawing on the cave wall with a glowing finger. Lines of light appeared, simple shapes. A star, a ship, a girl, a dog, and finally, a man. Jake. She looked at him and smiled, then pointed to the last shape, then to herself, then to the puppy. Together, Jake felt something warm in his chest, in a galaxy full of war, lies, and fear. This alien girl didn't ask for power or weapons. She asked for a family. He nodded. We'll find a way, he whispered. I promise. But outside, in the dark forest, something watched. Hunters from the sky. The night was calm. To calm. Zo was asleep, curled up in the cave with the puppy in her arms. Jake sat near the entrance, holding his blaster, his eyes on the trees. He couldn't shake the feeling something was wrong. The stars above blinked gently. But one star moved, then another. Jake stood up fast. Those weren't stars. Those were ships. They were coming. Bright blue lights flashed high in the sky. The silence broke with a loud hum, like machines waking from sleep. Jake rushed into the spot. Jake rushed into the cave. Zoe, wake up. She blinked fast, confused at first. Then she heard the sound. Her body tensed. She knew that sound. She had heard it the day her world crashed. Zoe grabbed the puppy and followed Jake out of the cave. Above the trees, two small drones appeared, silver, fast, scanning everything below. Jake pulled Zoe behind a rock. They're hunting, he whispered. Looking for you? She nodded slowly. The puppy growled, but Zoe held it tight and calmed it down. Jake watched the drones. They scanned the cave, the ground, even the trees, but moved on. For now, Jake exhaled. Okay, we need to move. Now. But Zoe reached out and touched his arm. Her glowing finger drew something on his skin. Letters he didn't understand. Jake turned on his translator. The meaning flashed. They don't stop, ever. Jake looked at her. Who are they? So looked up, then whispered a single word. Hunters. Jake had heard rumors of them. Not aliens, not humans. Machines, built long ago by a forgotten race. They were left behind to clean up after battles destroy. Broken ships, erase tech. Remove witnesses. They weren't just hunting Zo, they were cleaning the past. Jake and Zoe ran through the forest. No time to rest, no time to think. Behind them, the hum grew louder. Lights flashed through the trees. The sky lit up blue. The drones were backhand. They weren't alone. A larger ship appeared overhead, quiet but deadly. It dropped 3 black pods into the forest. The pods hit the ground hard and opened with sharp clicks. Tall metal shapes stepped out bipedal. Hunters with glowing red eyes. They didn't speak. They only scanned. Then they began to walk, fast. Focused, Jake and Zoe ran. Faster. They reached an old human outpost, long abandoned. The metal walls were rusted, the gate half broken. Jake kicked it open and pulled Zoe inside. The puppy barked, scared. Jake looked around. There were still power lines, some tech. A few working panels. He found a control pad and hit the emergency lock. The gate slammed shut just in time. Outside, the red-eyed hunters stopped. They scanned the gate. Then one of them raised its arm. Jake saw the energy charge up. Get down. Boom. The blast hit the wall, shaking everything. So covered the puppy with her body. Jake shielded her with his dot. When? The dust cleared. The wall held, but just barely. Jake knew they couldn't stay long. He turned to Zoe. There's a ship under this station. An escape pod. Maybe it still works? Zoe looked at him, hope and fear in her eyes. Jake led her through the broken halls. Lights flickered. Warning alarms flashed red. They found the door to the lower deck, locked. Jake cursed. I need a power core to open this. Zoe stepped forward. She reached into her chest pocket and pulled out the glowing cube, the same one she had used to show memories. She pressed it to the door. The lights turned green. The door opened. Jake blinked. You had access tech this whole time. She nodded slowly. Then added, yours. Jake looked confused. What do you mean, mine? Zoe tapped his chest again. A small light glowed under his skin. Jake froze. She pressed her glowing finger to the same spot. The translator blinked. Your people made me. Part you. Jake didn't understand, but there was no time. The door behind them exploded. The hunters were inside. Jake grabbed Zoe's hand and jumped into the escape pod. He slammed the hatch shut and hit the launch. Fire roared underneath. The pod shot into the air, breaking through trees into the night sky. Below, the hunters stared up but could not follow. Inside the pod, it was quiet. Jake breathed hard, trying to calm down. Zoe sat beside him, still holding the puppy. She was shaking but alive. Jake looked at her, then at the stars outside. Where do we go now? Zoe pointed to a small green light on the screen, a planet nearby. Jake nodded. Okay, we'll go there. We rest, then we talk. Zoe leaned her head on his shoulder. Jake looked down. He still didn't know who or what she really was, but one thing was clear. They were no longer running from the past. They were flying straight into it. Hidden shelter. Hidden past the escape pod, touched down hard. Dust flew up. Trees bent from the wind. A loud hiss came from the landing gear. Jake unstrapped himself, shaking off the crash. Zoe was still holding the puppy, her eyes wide, heart racing. But they were safe. For now, outside, the sky was purple. The planet was quiet. Strange tall trees surrounded them, soft glowing leaves and long vines like fingers. Jake scanned the area. No drones, no signals. I think we're alone. Zoe didn't speak. She hadn't said a word since they left the hunters behind. Jake helped her out of the pod. She moved slowly, carefully, as if her body remembered pain that her face didn't show. The puppy barked once. Zoe held it closer. Come on, Jake said gently. Let's find shelter. They walked through the strange forest. The ground was soft, like thick sand. Glowing insects flew between branches. The world felt untouched, empty, but peaceful. After an hour, they found an old bunker built into the side of a hill, half covered in vines, forgotten by time. Jake checked the door. Locked, but not for long. He used his tools to spark the panel. The door opened with a heavy groan. Inside was darkness. Jake turned on his light. The bunker was still intact, bare walls, broken chairs, metal crates, a power node still blinking faintly. Zoe stepped inside and stopped, her eyes locked on a symbol, carved into the wall. Jake looked too. It was a circle with 3 lines inside it. A symbol he didn't know, but Zoe did. She dropped to her knees. Her hands touched the wall. Her body shook. Jake rushed to her. "Zoe, what is it?" She didn't answer. But her glowing fingers began to move, drawing symbols in the air. The translator tried to keep up. Words flashed. "I was here before crash. Training. Testing. Pain." Jake blinked. "This was a lab," he said slowly. "A test facility." Zoe nodded. More symbols appeared. "Humans and others made us smarter, stronger. Some died. I ran." Jake stepped back, shocked. "You were a test subject." Zoe looked down. Her shoulders dropped. The puppy licked her hand gently. She smiled, but the pain stayed in her eyes. Jake sat beside her. He finally understood. She wasn't just an alien. Girl, she was a child creator, changed by science, by war, maybe by humans. She wasn't just hiding. She was running from the ones who made her. "So," he said softly, "I didn't know, I swear." She looked at him, then she touched his chest again. Her glowing finger lit up a small mark near his heart. The translator flashed a new message. "You carry their tech, too." Jake froze. "What?" Zoe moved her hand in the air. A new image formed him unconscious on a table. Scientists placing something. Inside him, a memory. Jake's memory, but he didn't remember it. The screen blinked, hidden, for later. Control. Protect. Both. Jake's hands shook. He had always thought his past missions were clean, safe, but this was different. "Why?" "Me?" he whispered. Zoe didn't answer. She simply placed her hand in his, not as a soldier, not as a lab subject, as someone who had no one else. Jake stood. "All right. We stay here for a while. Fix the bunker, rest, then figure out what's inside me and you." Zoe nodded. They worked together to fix the lights and seal the doors. Jake found water filters and heating pads. Zoe found an old data panel and charged it. Soon, the bunker became a small home. They cooked small meals. Zoe began to speak one word at a time. Broken English. Soft voice. She told Jake how the scientists gave her skills, how she could fix machines with her mind. How they called her Subject Light. How they left her behind when the war ended. She was a child to no one, except, maybe now, to Jake. One night, as the wind blew outside, Zoe drew pictures on the wall again. This time, they weren't sad. A house, a garden, a dog running, 2 people standing close. Jake smiled. "You want this?" Ouch. Zoe nodded. Then she pointed to the ceiling. "But they come back." Jake followed her finger, a blinking red light on the radar. He tapped it. Ah. Signal was coming from orbit. Not drones, not hunters. Something bigger. Someone had found them. The lab and the lither red light blinked over and over. Warning, Jake stared at it, heart pounding. The bunker radar was old, but not broken. Something had entered orbit above them. Something big. Zoe stood beside him, silent, her eyes locked on. The screen, friend or enemy? Jake asked softly. Zoe didn't answer. She didn't need to. They both knew the truth. Whoever was up there was not here to help. Jake grabbed his gear. "We need to move." But Zoe shook her head. She pointed at the signal again. Then she opened her hand, and a soft white light floated out from her palm. It moved through the air like a butterfly, touching the radar screen. The image changed. A logo appeared. A symbol from Earth. Jake froze. No, that's not possible. Was the mark of the Helios Division a secret part of the human military? He had worked with them once. Just one mission. They promised peace, science, exploration. But he had heard rumors of dark labs, experiments, human and alien bodies mixed together. Jake turned to Zoe. They're human. From Earth, Zoe stepped back, her body tensed. Her face twisted in pain. Jake saw her lips form a word. The translator caught it. Liars. She backed into the wall, holding the puppy close. Jake reached for her. Zoe, wait. She raised her hand. Her skin glowed. The lights in the bunker flickered. No more, she said, her voice clear. Sharp cut through the air like a knife. Then she ran. Jake cursed and followed. Zoe ran into the forest. Past the glowing trees, past the broken branches they once stepped. On together, she didn't look back. Jake finally caught her near a dry riverbed. So, stop. She turned. Tears ran down her cheeks. Jake stepped forward slowly. Please, talk to me. She looked at him not with hate, with hurt. You? Part of them? She asked. You lied. Jake shook his head. I didn't know, I swear. Zoe's voice cracked. You have Mark. They're tech, inside. Same as me. Jake held up his hands. Then, maybe, I was used to. She blinked. I don't remember. They erased it, but I'm not like them. I protected you. I fought for you. Zoe looked down. The puppy barked once, softly, then licked her face. She closed her eyes, then nodded. Jake let out a breath of relief. We go back, she whispered. We wait. They returned to the bunker. But something was different now. The trust between them, cracked, Jake knew he had. To fix it, he opened an old terminal deep inside the bunker. It connected to forgotten Helios files. Hidden far in the system, he used his code. Access granted. Zo stood behind him. Watching the screen showed images, subjects in cages. Wires in there, skin. Children screaming. Zoe was in one of the videos, tiny, weak, afraid. Jake's hands clenched into fists. He kept watching. File after file. And then he saw himself lying on a table. Metal arms, placing something into his chest. A chip, a tracker. A control key. Jake's whole body went cold. He turned to Zoe. They used me. She didn't speak, just nodded slowly. Then, the screen flashed again. New message. Landing in 30 minutes. Prepare for collection. Jake stared at the words. Collection? He whispered. Zo spoke, voice hard. They think I'm theirs. Jake stood. Not anymore. He opened a panel in the wall and pulled out an old EMP grenade. It was risky but strong enough to kill trackers and tech in a wide zone. He held it up. I can wipe the chip inside me, but once I do, they'll know. Zoe stepped forward. Then she did something he didn't expect. She touched her forehead to his. A soft light passed between them. Then she stepped back. The translator blinked. I trust you. Jake smiled, then pressed the grenade. Boom, no explosion. Just a flash of blue. Pain shot through his chest. The chip burned out. He fell to his knees. Zo caught him. The radar beeped again. The ship was landing. They're coming. Zoe whispered. Jake stood. Weak, angry. Let them. Protect the weak. The sky burned red. The Helios ship broke through the clouds like a falling sword, black, wide and deadly. Engines roared. Trees bent. The ground shook beneath Jake's boots. He stood at the bunker entrance. Eyes narrowed beside him. Zoe held the puppy close to her chest. She didn't run, didn't cry. This time she would stand. Jake checked his blaster. Low power. 2 charges left. Not enough, but it would have to do. The ship landed with a loud hiss. Dust flew everywhere. Doors opened with sharp screeches. From the smoke, they came. 6 men in black armor. Helio soldiers. Behind them, a woman in a gray coat stepped out. Her face was cold. Sharp eyes. Lips like ice. She smiled when she saw Zoe. "There you are," she said. Zoe stepped back. The puppy barked. Jake moved in front of her. The woman's smile faded. "And you? Subject 49. I see you're awake now." Jake didn't blink. "Not your subject anymore." The woman sighed. "This doesn't have to be hard. She belongs to us. She's dangerous. You know that?" Jake shook his head. "She's more human than you." The woman raised her hand. "Take them." The soldiers stepped forward. Jake fired first. One shot direct. Hit. The first soldier dropped. The second ducked behind a rock and fired back. Sparks flew near Jake's head. He grabbed Zoe's hand. "Run." They dashed into the trees. Blaster fire lit up the forest behind them. "Split up," Jake shouted. "Circle back to the bunker." Zoe nodded and ran left, fast and silent. Jake went right, leading 3 soldiers away. He ran hard, weaving between trees, ducking under branches. Heart pounding, he reached a cliffside and stopped. Nowhere left to go. He turned. Blaster raised, the soldiers stepped out. "Give up, Subject 49. One said. "She's not worth dying for." Jake smirked. "Then why are you chasing her?" He fired both charges. Hit one in the chest, another in the arm. Then dropped the empty weapon and charged. Fists flew. Boots hit dirt. Jake fought hard, like a man. With nothing to lose, one soldier grabbed him. Jake slammed his head forward. Helmet cracked, then a light burst from behind the trees. A wave of glowing energy hit the last soldier, knocking him into a tree. Jake blinked. Zoe stood there, eyes glowing. White. Her hands sparked with power. She had returned. Jake breathed hard. Nice timing. Zoe helped him up. "We have to go back," she said. "Puppy still there." They ran back to the bunker, but it was already surrounded. The gray-coated woman stood at the door, holding something small. The puppy, it whimpered in her hands, scared. Jake stopped cold. Zoe's breath caught. "Let it go," Jake said, voice shaking. The woman laughed, still protecting the weak. "You haven't changed." She pulled a small device from her belt. One press, and this creature's heart stops. Just a tool, after all. Zoe stepped forward, slowly, tears in her eyes. But fury, too. She raised her hand. The ground shook. Wind swirled. Glowing lines lit up her arms. Chest, neck. She spoke one word. Enough. Power exploded from her body in a soft wave. The soldiers screamed. Their weapons sparked and died. There. Suits shut down. The woman dropped the puppy and fell to her knees. Jake ran forward, caught the puppy, and stepped back. Zoe walked calmly toward the woman. The light faded from her body, but her eyes still glowed. "You made me a weapon," she said. The woman tried to stand, but her legs shook. Zoe looked down at her, but I chose to be something else. Jake placed a hand on Zoe's shoulder. "We don't need to kill her," he said. Zoe nodded. She turned and walked away. Jake stared at the broken soldiers, at the woman, now silent, now powerless. "Tell Helios," he said. "We're not your toys anymore." Then he turned and followed Zoe into the forest. They didn't run this time. They walked. That night. In the bunker, Jake patched up his wounds. Zoe lay beside the puppy, who now slept peacefully. "You saved me," Jake said quietly. So looked at him. No, you saved me first. Jake smiled. Outside, the forest sang soft songs in the wind, but above them, in the black sky, stars moved. Not just stars, ships. She built her own home weeks past. The forest was calm again. The stars above no longer roared with ships. The air no longer shook from drones. Peace had returned. Zoe sat on the soft grass. Outside the bunker, with the puppy curled up beside her. Its name now was Rusty. Jake named it. And Zoe liked the sound. The bunker wasn't cold and broken anymore. It was a home. There were new lights, warm and yellow. A garden grew outside, full of alien fruit and earth plants Jake had in his old ration. Kids, so, painted the walls inside with glowing ink stars, animals. Stories, and on one wall, a drawing of 3 figures. A man, a girl, a dog. Together. Jake walked out of the bunker carrying 2 cups of warm tea. He handed one to Zoe and sat beside her. Still quiet out there, he said. Zoe nodded. I like quiet. They sat in silence, watching the sun dip below. The trees. Zoe had changed. She still had the glowing marks on her arms, but they were softer now. She smiled more. She laughed sometimes. Her voice was stronger, but her eyes still held something old, something no child should carry. Jake had changed. 2 dots. Since destroying the chip in his chest, he felt more alive. He had no orders now, no mission, no one above him. He wasn't a soldier anymore, just a man, protecting his family as the stars came out. Zoe stood and pointed to the sky. There, she said. Jake followed her finger. At first, he saw nothing. Then, movement? A small light, faint, far away, another ship. Jake stood up fast. You think it's Helios again? Zoe shook her head. No, not human. Jake watched closely. The light grew brighter, then split into 3 smaller lights. He reached for his blaster out of habit, then paused. Zoe touched his hand. Not here to hurt, she said. Jake looked at her. How do you know? She didn't answer with words. Instead, she reached behind her neck and pulled out a thin, silver thread, something that had been part of her since birth. She placed it in his hand. Jake looked down. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Then it spoke, a soft voice. Not human, not machine. She is one of us. We come in peace. Jake's chest tightened. You contacted them. Zoe nodded. They left me, but I called them back. Jake frowned. Why? Zoe looked at Rusty, then at Jake. Because I have something now, she said. Something worth protecting. Jake understood. She wasn't asking for rescue. She was offering a warning to her creators, to anyone watching from the stars. She wasn't weak anymore. She had built a home, and if they came to take it, they'd have to face her. Jake turned to the lights. They're landing. Zoe nodded. Jake sighed. Then let's meet them. The clearing lit up with soft light. 3 ships landed, small, round, silver. No weapons showed. Doors opened. Aliens stepped out, tall, elegant, glowing faint blue. Like Zoe, they wore long robes and moved like dancers. One stepped forward. Its voice echoed in the mind, not the ears. You lived. Zoe stared back. Calm, strong. You left me. The alien looked down. You were, ... imperfect, not ready. Zoe narrowed her eyes. You were wrong. Jake stepped beside her. She's more than ready. The aliens looked at him. You helped her grow, even when you were broken too. Jake nodded. That's what humans do. There was silence. Then the lead alien said, we wish to observe, not control. May we stay near? So looked at Jake. He said nothing. The choice was hers. She turned to the aliens. Stay, if you help. The aliens bowed. We will learn from the home you made. Days passed. The aliens built quiet homes in the trees. Never too close. Never. Too loud, they brought tools, seeds, books.zo taught them how to play with Rusty, how to cook earth rice, how to paint glowing stars on walls. Jake showed them how to laugh at bad jokes, how to build with their hands, how to make tea from burned leaves. For the first time in her life, Zoe had both past and future, not as a subject, not as a weapon, as a girl, a builder, a protector. One night, under a blanket of stars, Jake sat alone outside the bunker. Zo came beside him, thinking, she asked. He nodded, wondering how we got here. So smiled. You came to a broken ship. Heard a cry. Jake chuckled. Yeah, thought it was a trap. She touched his hand. Wasn't a trap, she whispered. Was a beginning. Jake looked at her, dot in her eyes. He saw fire, and peace, and home.